Welcome to the Life with Joey Calvo Podcast. I am Joey Calvo. Today our guest is Wayne Lehrer, and he's going to talk to us about himself as well as what he does. I'm at a disadvantage today because I kind of rushed myself and couldn't find his bio fast enough. So I'm going to have Wayne explain who he is, and we'll take it from there. So Wayne, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Joey. Thank you.
All right. So tell us who Wayne Lehrer is.
You want me to read you my bio?
Yeah, in a way. I don't know how I misplaced it, but
I'll tell you. I'll read what you would have written. Okay. Yeah. Wayne Lehrer has prepared his whole life for this: successes, failures, and a lifetime of research into diet, health, exercise, meditation, authentic happiness, radical acceptance, and how we create meaning and value in life, and specifically in our third act. Wayne's trained hundreds to teach yoga and meditation, studied Oriental medicine, designed World's Fairs and theme parks, produced and directed 70mm films and TV, author, sculptor, painter, and international seminar leader. His books, The Prodigy Within and The Art of Conscious Aging, are simple, engaging, and masterful guides to help you age consciously and fulfill your life's purpose, no matter what your age.
All right. Thank you, Wayne. I apologize again for being ill-prepared for that. So how did you get started into where you're at now? What led you to it?
Well, I've basically, unbeknownst to me, spent my whole life doing everything I kind of suggest that people start to do in their third act. I researched diet, I did meditation, I took relatively good care of myself, once I got past my own issues of anger and addiction and trauma and all that kind of stuff. And about 10 years ago, on a weekend where I was teaching yoga and meditation for the USC School of Gerontology at a retreat they do yearly, I got really close to sort of three of the top people in the aging field. One was the dean of the USC School of Gerontology, which is the top gerontology school in the world.
Okay.
The president of AARP, which is pretty much the top aging organization and magazine in the world. And then a woman named Kathy Smith, who had done exercise videos for the baby boom generation in the 70s and sold hold on, I'm turning off my phone, and sold $500 million worth of exercise videos and video equipment and stuff like that. And she's pretty much the top exercise and fitness person for the baby boom generation. So in one weekend, these people became friends, and since they've become best friends. In fact, today I'm at the USC school teaching, and I just finished teaching a class here, and now I'm with you.
Yeah. Somehow I can't remember Kathy Smith back then. I remember Jane Fonda doing videos.
Jane Fonda used to go to Kathy's classes and did videos after Kathy.
Yeah.
You'd remember her if I showed you her picture.
Yeah, I probably would. Yeah, like I said, it's been so long. I mean, like I said, I'm used.
Well, she's still going strong. She's incredibly great shape. In fact, while we're sitting here, I'll bring up a picture for you of her and I doing yoga together.
Wow.
Just to show you how here we are.
Yeah.
This is
wow. Okay. I couldn't see.
That's when we were both 64.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
So anyways, on that weekend, I met those people and they all said, you should write a book on aging.
Uh-huh.
And it kind of got into my head and I started thinking about it. And that was sort of the beginning of it. And, I, as I mentioned to you, I'd already been doing a lot of the stuff that, that I've incorporated into my book, The Art of Conscious Aging, as that I now see my book as sort of an operating manual for, your 50s and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
How to take care of yourself, how to practice self-care, how to eat, sleep, diet, what kind of relationships you should have, what relationships are energizing, what kind of relationships are enervating,
Mm-hmm.
how important it is to start to build communities when you get older,
Mm-hmm.
finding places in your life where you create value and you feel valuable. These are all issues that really come to the forefront in the third act.
Okay. All right. So, in reference to, well, I'm in my 50s. I'll be 55 next month. Diet's not the greatest because of where I live, because I don't have a kitchen per se to really make healthy food. And my exercise is not the greatest right now because I gained a lot of weight when I was married, and then it really boiled over afterwards to the point where I'm on Ozempic, and it's now taking effect on my knees in reference to the weight and stuff. So, what's the and relationship wise, we're going no is on hold, quote unquote, in reference to it, because there's things going on in reference with it. So what would be the best suggestion for me to go? I mean, I do attempt to get out when I can and walk a little, but it's like when I go out and walk now, my left knee is like wants to be in pain because it feels like I don't know if it's weight, if it's really the weight that's causing it. But I mean, I've gone to the ER about it, and they said, oh, nothing's wrong with it outside of it being degenerative.
Well, you bring up a lot of good points, Joey, and the thing that you really need to get that is critical when you're 55 and you're starting to experience these kind of losses and these sort of situations that look like they're challenging to overcome, and that is when you're young, a lot of those things just come and they go. They're completely negotiable. Your knee hurts, it's going to get better in a month or a week or whatever it is. You don't have to worry about diet because you can eat whatever you want when you're young. And one of the things that happens when you get older is there's a lot of things that are no longer negotiable.
Yeah.
Sleep is no longer negotiable. Weight is no longer negotiable. Diet is no longer negotiable, because everything that you do or don't do is going to show up pretty immediately.
Yeah.
That's the first part of it.
Yeah.
The second part of it is that every time you, for example, with your knee, every time you get an issue that you have a story around, like my knee hurts and therefore I can't walk that far, or I can't exercise, then all of a sudden you don't exercise. And that's a whole domino effect that starts rippling into every other part of your life. And all of a sudden, here's the bottom line, Joey. In life, there's two directions. One is youth and one is old age.
Yeah.
Youth is called expansion. Old age is called contraction. So everything you say, I can't, I don't, I won't, I used to about, are things that are narrowing the path down this contraction thing. And if you look, the ultimate contraction obviously is rigor mortis.
Right.
The ultimate contraction is when you pass on And if you look at a lot of old people, when they're walking, they're stooped over. There's very little mobility in their upper body. Their intestines don't work. They go to the bathroom once every 3 days. Everything is in a contracted state. So although it's a story and you can tell your friends about it, I can't do this, I can't do that. The bottom line is not doing it is hastening your final days. And also, more importantly than that, because we all are going to go at some point, what it's doing more than that is it's impacting your quality of life today. So what my whole book is about is most of us, for example, in 1900, most people died at 47 years old. That was the life expectancy in 1900. The life expectancy now is somewhere between 73 and 83, depending on you're a man or woman or what part of the country you live in.
Right.
So for many people, that means they have 10 or 20 years in their third act, 10 or 20 years after retirement, 10 or 20 years after their children move out of the house and they're experiencing empty nest, 10 or 20 years. But the truth is 30 or 40. I'm 75. I still run every day. I jump in the ocean every day and 5 days a week. I go out of my way to have a good diet. You don't have to have anything other than really a hot plate to have a good diet. You just have to make conscious choices about what you eat and when you eat and how you eat. So all of these issues are no longer negotiable, and they're not negotiable for me because I want my quality of life to remain as high as possible. I watched, as many baby boomers have, they watched their parents go, and many parents go over a 3, 4, 5, 7-year period where it's called a period of critical demise, where you start losing more and more and more of your capabilities until you have to be housed somewhere. Someone has to feed you, change your diapers, all that kind of stuff. And that's really the result of not having made healthy decisions for at least the last 10 or 15 years, if not the previous 40. Well, you can't change the previous 40.
Right.
You can't change the last 10, but you can change them as of today if your quality of life matters to you and if you still want to make a contribution and be of value. And obviously, you've created this podcast, so you have a desire to still create value in the world. In order to create value in the world, we need to be as healthy and happy as we can be. That's my belief, anyways.
Okay. All right. And so, in reference to the book, explain a little bit more about the book outside of what you mentioned so far.
Well, the book is the operating manual for the next 40 years of your life, from 50 to 90 or 100. Many of us are going to live to 100 years now. That's sort of commonly understood. And the operating manual means what kind of sleep do I need? What kind of food do I need to eat? What kind of decisions do I make about my health care? What do I do when my family is no longer living near me? And my communities naturally dissolve. For example, one of the things I talk about in the book is, let's say you have a job and you've been at your job for 5 years or 30 years, and all of a sudden you retire. There's people that you met at the water cooler every day. There's people you bumped into riding the elevator. There's people that you actually worked with and collaborated with that were on your team or you were on their team. And so all of a sudden, 10, 20, 50 people could drop out of your life overnight. And of course they say, let's have lunch, after you retire and stuff. But you've immediately, unbeknownst to yourself, lost an important community. And since one of the gravest things that happen to many of us when we age is we become isolated, that happens inadvertently. Here's how it happens. We leave work, and all of a sudden those 5 or 200 people that we bumped into every day that may not have been our best friends, but they had us connected. They had us in communication. They had, they knew a little bit about us and we knew something about them. So they're gone. If you had raised your children are gone. Now you have an empty nest, and that identity you had as a mother or father is gone. You have friends that move away when you start to get to my age. friends start moving away because they want to now live closer to their children who don't live where they live any longer.
Mm-hmm.
And they, or they go to a retirement home near them. So you lose friends that way. Friends die as you start to get older. So all of a sudden, without you knowing how it happened, your world got smaller. So I talk a lot about the decisions you need to make to stem the tide of that isolation. So for example, you need to find new communities. And most men don't, most men's communities come from work or sports, maybe politics, maybe the church, but mostly from work or sports things that they do together, golfing, basketball buddies, and meeting at work and work-related events. So all of a sudden, if work-related events are gone, and men aren't really good at starting new relationships, not as good as women are. So one of the reasons I believe women live longer, and the Harvard study has bared this out, the longest lived people are the people with the healthiest relationships and the largest amount of healthy relationships. So back to my book, I talk about how to create those new communities. So whether it's joining a church, joining a senior center, becoming a part, if you're in the 12-step world of Alcoholics Anonymous or Al-Anon, getting more involved there, joining a book club, women doing knitting circles, anything that gets you involved. I'm a big believer in killing 3 birds with 1 stone. So for example, a great way to get exercise and be in community is to find a neighborhood garden. And all of a sudden you're exercising in a way that's benign and pleasurable. You're around people and you're getting your own food ready. That's a simple thing to do. And when you're older and you've got time on your own, all of a sudden you've hit a home run.
Yeah. Well, my quote unquote fun is late night at the casinos when I get the opportunity.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, what I normally do is I will catch a late night train, like 10:55 at night Eastern time from Philadelphia, and go to Atlantic City. Get there like 12:30 in the morning. Hop on it, one of the shuttles, takes me to the casino, and then I kill like 3 hours between the slots. And if I should go broke and the weather's not decent enough, I might walk the boardwalk for a little bit, or walk onto the beach and just do some thinking, and and stuff like that. So, and then when it's time to go back, 20 minutes before the train leaves, I'm on the shuttle. I'm back to the train station, back home. So that's kind of my.
Okay, so that for me,
Yeah,
that bumps into a bunch of issues that don't work for me, for example, and may not work for other people our age.
right.
Well, our age is different. I'm 20
Yeah.
years older than you.
Yeah.
But when you're a little bit older, for example, I only need 6.5 hours of sleep, but I need it before 10 o'clock at night. I can get 10 hours of sleep after 11:30, and I'll be tired the next day.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the non-negotiables when you get older. The other thing is about that there's no real community there. You're sitting alone at the slots. So it's not, I mean, obviously if it's what brings you fun and pleasure, by all means, keep doing it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't solve the problem of quality of life and improving the quality of your life when the natural thing is, if you're not improving it because of inertia, your quality of life is constantly slipping away. Gravity, wear and tear, years of abuse, bad habits all start adding up exponentially when we cross the mid-50s thing, and they really hit us hard in our mid-60s or early 70s for most people, if they're still got their health at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have someone special that's in her mid-60s. I mean, she was great, healthy, and then in matter of fact, it's going to be 10 years this year. She was diagnosed with scleroderma. And so she now is going from managing to eat regular with no problems and being able to do things with no problems to literally, if she's out in the cold, you know, her or if the temperature is cool enough, her fingers are turning purple instead of, you know, managing to handle, you know, the weather and everything.
Right.
And you know, not being able to eat right. Most of the things that she normally would eat, she can't eat anymore because her body, you know, with the disorder, just.
Well, look at what you're talking about is the ultimate cautionary tale. Something like that is going to happen to all of us somewhere near the end of our life. So the deal is it happened for the last 6 months of our life? For example, in 1900, with the average life expectancy at 47, 49 years, they had that thing I talked to you about the where the decline happens the fastest. Back then, the rate of decline for most people was 1/3 of 1% of your lifetime, which was equal to 2 or 3 months.
Wow.
So that means you were healthy-ish, and then over a 2 or 3 month period, you went down. So what used to kill most people at that time was pneumonia.
Okay.
And pneumonia was called the old person's best friend because it took you out in a 2-month period. Now, like this woman friend of yours, she may have a 6 or 8 year period of critical decline where all of her quality of life keeps shrinking. So the deal is, if you don't take care, you can be assured of a prolonged downhill slide. And if you do take care, you can't be promised that it's not going to be, but the likelihood is you're going to extend your life expectancy and the period of decline is going to be far less. So it's a decision. And, you know, we can talk about all the people in the world that have backed themselves up against stories about why they can't make that decision any longer or why not making that decision got them to where they are. But the truth is that wherever you are, you can start making healthy decisions instead of tell stories about why you can't.
Yeah. Well, she's managed to, you know, to adjust and be able to manage. And like I said, this has been 10 years. You know, when she first found out and I learned about it, you know, we were learning that, you know, most people didn't live 3 years once they were diagnosed with it. And she's on 10, you know, and I'm blessed that she's still around.
That's great.
You know, I'm blessed that she's still around, and she, excuse me, and she's made the adjustments, you know, in reference to eating and being able to manage. It's, you know, she's realizing she can't do a lot anymore, but she's doing her best to go out and exercise and doing things around the house that, you know, that will at least motivate, you know, give her the, you know, the at least the exercise type part, you know, and so she has managed on that, and you know, she just, like I said, you know, has little things that, you know, that she can't do as much anymore.
So my book isn't so much for people that are finally in her position. My book is for people that want to, prior to, you know, being really impacted by their previous life decisions, where they're just beginning to feel isolated, or they're just beginning to, you know, feel their body, you know, create limitations. You know, My book is filled with suggestions. Like I said, it's an operating manual. Do these things and your quality of life will improve. Do these things and your well-being will rise. Do these things and your opportunity to make a contribution will be expanded. So, those are the issues that where I want to make a difference in the world. I mean, most people, for example, do their job for 20 or 30 years, and in it, they have to have some sense, besides the money they're making, that they're creating some kind of value in the world. When all of a sudden that leaves, and your kids have moved out, and you don't feel like a parent, you don't feel the value you get from being a parent, you don't feel the value you're getting from work, you need to find another way to create value in your world so you can feel good about yourself. I believe that happiness is a function of feeling three things. One, that you're valued. Two, that you're creating value. And three, that you're valuable. And if you know that, if the outside world is telling you that you give them value, and you're feeling the fact that what you do is valuable, and you know that you're being valued, all of a sudden there's great joy and meaning in life. And this is a big part of the third act. In the first and in the second act, from 20 to 60, for example, most of the time the second act is about achievement, acquiring, accumulating, building, developing the separate self. It's all about independence. The first act, as children from 0 to 20, is about dependence. It's about learning, researching, discovering, and that's all about being independent. Then we develop our independence, and in the third act, from mid-50s on, we really become, if we want to find happiness and meaning, we need to become interdependent. That's why community is so important. That's why maintaining some level of health and well-being is important, so we can interact with groups and make a contribution in various places.
Okay. All right. So explain the website prodigywithin.com.
I don't. That's just my email address.
Oh,
my website is my website is waynelehrer.com.
okay. Sorry about that.
So on my website are ways to get more information that's based on my book.
Okay.
The Art of Conscious Aging.
Okay.
And you'll find in the book, for example, I have a section on authentic happiness. And in that section, thank you. And in that section, I talk about, I have a bunch of different ways to measure your happiness. And there's what's called the four levels of happiness. The first level is pleasures and pleasantries. That's eating, reading a book, going for a walk. The second level of happiness is flow and grace. That's when we're engaged in something where time disappears, where we get this great sense of well-being while we're doing it. I'm a sculptor. While I sculpt, I do that. I feel that while I'm swimming. That's the second level of happiness. The third level of happiness is intimacy, connection, and communion. And that's really about being deeply connected to others. And the deeper that connection, the more vibrant and intimate that connection is, the greater sense of happiness and well-being we have. And the fourth level of happiness is meaning, value, purpose, and doing for the ultimate good. So I have a download on my website regarding that. And then I have what I call the 14 practices of authentic happiness. That's also available on the website. And those practices, for example, are gratitude, meditation, self-forgiveness, acceptance, lightheartedness, integrity, generosity, positivity, compassion, creation. So those are things that are available on the website. There's also a chance to, if somebody's interested, I do 30-minute free coaching sessions with people called discovery sessions, and they can sign up for those on the website. There's a calendar for that. And in those sessions, I can help them restart their professional life. I can help them deal with issues that are coming up based on their third act and what's arising for them in their aging. I just recently, a woman found my book in Portugal. She's
Wow.
been reading it. She reached out to me for a coaching session. And because she's in Portugal, and even though her daughter, she moved there to be with her daughter and her granddaughters, they don't have a lot of time for her. So all of a sudden she's in a foreign country and she's isolated.
Yeah.
And she lives 45 minutes away from a major town, and because that's where she found a place.
Yeah.
So we talked, and she's going to now, and she's a composer. So
Yeah.
now what she's going to do is she's going to move to that town, which is halfway between where her daughter is and where she is. She's going to join. She happens to be in 12-step world, so she's going to be able to go to those meetings and be around more people. And I suggested that she get a job at a late night restaurant or a bar where she can be the piano player.
Yeah.
and be sharing her art. And all of a sudden, and she hadn't thought of any of those things. And all of a sudden she's found a way to have joy, meaning, relationships, community, and stay near her family instead of move back to where she came from.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's a good thing. So everybody go to WayneLehrer.com and, check out everything. Wayne, thank you so much for coming on. And if there's anything new that comes up in the future, just reach out to me and we'll work something out.
Well, let's get your viewers to go to Amazon and get a copy of my book. It's called The Art of Conscious Aging, available on Amazon, and you'll have it tomorrow.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
So go
Joey.
to Amazon and reach out for the book, The Art of Conscious Aging, as well as, like I said, going on WayneLehrer.com. And like I said, Wayne, you're welcome to come back on anytime. Just reach out to me, let me know, and we'll do something more. And everybody, thank you so much for watching the Life with Joey Calvo podcast. God bless you all.
Thank you, Joey.